Hi everyone, I'm Will, and thanks for joining me as I walk through my Notion template for podcasters. The reason I'm making this video is to guide you through the template itself for people who have purchased it, but also if you don't want to purchase it, you should be able to build this yourself just looking at everything that I've done and maybe build upon it and create something totally unique that will really help you for your podcast. This template is to help take the stress out of planning and managing a podcast. It also contains a database for managing all the guests that you're going to have on your podcast. And with that, let's dive in. When you download the template, the first thing you'll notice are these 3 pages. We've got a social media planner at the bottom, the podcast assets page here, and then you've got a podcast episode tracker page. This one here is where you're going to spend most of your time, but we're going to go through these 2 first because they'll take 2 minutes to run through. So the social media planner, click into there, and this is a tool to help you plan your posts around the podcast. So we've got an area for drafts, an area for published posts, and then you've got a calendar view as well to see what has been published and when it went live. So if we click new on here, we've got a very simple template that comes up. Write your text here, add an image and any hashtags. So originally I built this for Instagram, which is why it's in that format, but you can design it yourself however you want. It has a schedule property there and a profile to say which profile you're going to publish to, and then a little checkbox that says, is this published or not? So that is the social media planner. Nice and simple, but helps you get your podcast out there and across all the social media platforms. If we go back here, the next bit we've got is the podcast assets page. In here, you can store all of the assets for your podcast. So I've put a couple of examples, things like brand colors. This is something that is really handy to remember, and you don't always want to have a Canva subscription just to remember what your brand colors are. So you've got some podcast artwork in here. This is the one that I made for my podcast that I used to do, and I've added some tags saying this is artwork and it's also branding. And then in here, I've added a music asset tag and put the intro music in there. So you might have intro music, outro music, jingles that you want to add to the podcast, and sound effects that you regularly use. All of these can be stored in here, and with the tags, you can easily find them. So that covers the social media planner and the assets page. Now let's get into the bulk of it and have a look at the episode tracker page. The episode tracker is split into 2 parts. First of all, you've got your episode section, and then you've got your guests section. So one thing to note is down here, you've got your master databases. If we open this up, you can see you've got your episodes and your guests in there. This is where the real databases live. So these ones here are actually just views of those databases. The reason that we do that is so that if we accidentally delete this, for instance, we've only deleted a view, we haven't deleted all the information. Same with the episodes up here. If we highlight that and we accidentally deleted it, we've just deleted the view, not the information. Now let's walk through creating a new episode. If we click new on here, we automatically get a template loading up. So we'll walk through all the properties quick and then we'll have a look at everything down here. First thing we want to do is give it a title. So this is, let's call it a new episode. Let's put an exclamation mark there, just to differentiate it from that other one that I was doing as an example. So the episode number, let's say it's episode 41, and the statuses. So the statuses I've built into here are idea, researching, scripting, and scheduled to record. So these are all your to-do statuses. And these ones will show up on the left-hand side down here. So we've got an episode ideas tab, idea, researching, scripting, and scheduled to record. This is really handy if you come up with a lot of episode ideas, you can store them all in here, and then you can move them over to the researching phase and the scripting phase when you're ready. So you can store everything in here and you won't lose any of those awesome ideas that you might have. So looking at the other statuses, we've got the in progress statuses, recording and editing, and then the complete statuses, scheduled for release and published. Then we've got tags. So tags are just what the topic of the podcast might be about. Are you talking about Notion or ClickUp or whatever it might be? Guests. So we'll look at this one in detail in a little bit, but what you can do is if you're having a guest on your podcast, this links to the guest CRM database and you can click what guest is appearing on your show. Artwork is just a place to upload files, the artwork for your podcast. Sponsors, recording date, release date, those are all fairly self-explanatory. And then these are the links here for where your podcast might be hosted. So on your website, the MP3 download link that you might want to send to some people. And then oftentimes the podcast host has their own link as well. So I just included all of those. You can remove any. You might just want the website link or add some more, however you see fit. Now, down into the bulk of it. So when you create a new episode, this bit gets created here. So I've put 2 checklists here. If I'm recording with a guest, I want to remember to send them an invite email, and I want to confirm the date, time, and topics with them. Next, we've got these 3 checklists. So we've got a recording checklist, an editing checklist, and a publishing checklist. The idea behind all of these is just to make the whole process a lot smoother. So have a quick look at them now. Recording checklist, things like put your phone on Do Not Disturb mode, make sure you're recording in mono, export it as a WAV backup, that's an important one there. We'll have a look at the editing checklist. So for editing, I like to turn things up to 1.5 times the speed just to make it quicker and easier. Remove all filler words. This is a really cool thing. If you're using something like Descript, it can just take out all the ums and and all of those things. It can just take them all out for you. And one that I really like is this one. Apply a maximizer plugin to the master channel. That's good to get it all the right volume. Set it to -16 LUFS for a stereo episode or -19 LUFS for a mono episode. This is something I was always having to look up on Google, so it's really nice to have it as a little checklist in here. You can tick it off and go, yeah, I've done that. Perfect. Right, and then we'll look at the publishing checklist quickly. So I've got the publishing and then post-publishing here. So publishing, one thing I always, again, forget this website, so I've just put it on here. It's a headline analyzer, just to help you write better headlines and sort of test them out and see what score it might give you back. Then I've got a summary and show notes. And then here is another one that is really handy, 3000 by 3000 pixels. That's how big the artwork should be on there. Again, something I would always have to look up on Google. So the idea is you use these checklists just to make everything a lot smoother and make sure you don't forget anything. Now scrolling down to the next bit, we've got a section to actually help you plan your podcast episode. So I've included a draft intro on here, and then you've got your bullet points there. So you can edit all of this. I'll show you how in a second. Then you've got the planning section. So what topics are you going to be discussing? And in the notes here, you can write down, I like to put little checklists like that, and just write down what questions you might be asking the guest or any notes that you think you want to bring up in that podcast episode. Then when it comes time to release the episode, you can include an episode summary and some show notes and then all the social media links. And that is everything that is included in the episode page here. So fill all these out, record, edit, publish, and have all the planning and topics, everything in one page for each episode. Now I'll hide this quickly. And we were working on this one. So what you can do, say this one's an idea at the minute, you can easily drag it over to the next stage and say, okay, now we're researching it. Now we're scripting. Okay, now it's scheduled to record. So we'll put it back up there for a minute. I mentioned I'd show you how to edit the template yourself. So if you're creating a new episode, if you click on the down arrow here, and we've got new episode as the default template, you click here and you go to edit. Now this is the template here, and you can change the intro, change anything that you like in here, edit the checklists, the publishing checklist, all of that stuff. Make it how you want it. And then when you click back, every time you click new on there, it will be your own personal template with your podcast intro, etc. If we click on the next tab, you can see these are all the episodes. So I'm going to delete the one that we just made there. And we can delete that one as well. So then we're left with just episode 38 and 39. The next view is the board view. Lots of people like working in this Kanban board style. And again, it's really easy. You can just click and drag episodes over to the different statuses there. And if we scroll over to the right-hand side, you can see we've got one here that's published and it shows the artwork as well. So I really like that feature, being able to see the artwork of everything that you've published. You can see what episode is it, when was it published, and who is the guest. On this bit, we've got a release schedule. The release schedule will show you all the episodes that are going to be scheduled for release. If we go back to the board view, let's say we've got this episode and we want to release it today. We go back to the release schedule, and there you can see the episode has appeared, episode 39. It's about productivity, and we're going to release it today. And then the final part is the released list. So this is all the episodes that have been released. And again, you can see all the information that you need to see about that episode. So that is your episodes section. It should help you plan and schedule all your episodes a lot easier. The next part we want to have a look at is the guests section. So this is split into 2 different tabs. You've got all the guests that you're going to talk to, and then you've got one where it's grouped by status. So the statuses that we've got are not contacted. So these might be all the people that you want to talk to. Contacted, people who've said, hey, come on my podcast. And then people who have appeared on the podcast, and maybe anyone that's a returning guest. And then we've got a no status bit down here. Tell you what, let's hide this one right now because it's not very useful. So if we have a look at Evan here, he has appeared on the podcast that I did. You can see, okay, Evan is a composer. So you've got a few tags in here that you can tag your guest with. You can see that they've appeared on the podcast, and you can see what episode they appeared on as well. So you might have them appear on lots of episodes, and this list would just grow here. And then you can add in some information like their email, their website, and again, add any other properties that you want. You could add their phone number, all that sort of stuff. So this should make it super easy to manage all of your guests and see what episodes they have appeared on or are going to appear on. Now, if we click new here, let's make a new guest. Automatically, we haven't contacted them. Let's call them test guest. Let's say their stuff is all about Notion, and they're going to appear on this new episode. Now, if we go into that new episode, we can see, okay, Will is appearing on there and this other guest is appearing on there. So you can have multiple guests on each episode, which is really cool. Now, the last thing I want to show you is the released episodes. If I go over to the board view and I go over to this one here, I just wanted to show you what it looks like when an episode has been released. So this was episode number 38. It was published. It was about video game music. We talked to Evan. You got the artwork in there. So the artwork, actually, we were inside virtual reality. So we were trying something new. We could see our guest up on the big screen and he could see our virtual avatars there. So it's quite an interesting way of recording a podcast, but it meant that me and Lloyd could interact with each other sort of almost in person. We could turn around and look at each other and high five if we wanted to. So that was a pretty cool way of recording a podcast. So that's where the artwork is. No sponsors. We had a Patreon, so people would pay us on there, which is really nice. It was recorded back in 2020. We released it on the 28th. And then it's just got the website link there. So if we go into this bit, we ticked off those two. We had an intro. These were the topics we wanted to talk about. These were the notes about the guest. And then this was the episode summary about the episode itself. So that's what a finished episode might look like as an example. Thank you very much for watching this walkthrough of the template. Hopefully that gives you an idea of what you can build with Notion and how you might want to manage your podcast inside Notion. If you don't want to build it yourself, you can always purchase this template. It will be available on notiondad.com. I'll put a link in the description. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below and I will answer as soon as I can. Again, thank you so much for watching and I will speak to you soon.